Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Happy Buildings Make More Money podcast on the Rosenberg and Estes Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Lindenbaum. I've been a real estate litigator, deal maker, investor, and student of real estate in New York and New Jersey for approximately 20 years. I'm a member at Rosenberg and Estes PC in New York, which is a full-service law firm in real estate, having attorneys, about 90 attorneys, and we practice across various departments of all areas of law affecting real estate in any way tangential or directly related to real estate. On this podcast, we're introducing you to some of the key players that I have met over the years that I've had the privilege of representing. I love how each of my clients has charted his or her own individual path to success in this business. Everyone has some kind of secret sauce that has contributed to their success. Many are reluctant to share the recipe, but a good podcast will hopefully give you a little taste. And my own personal wish in doing these interviews is that they'll reveal one of the secrets to success in real estate is having a rich and trusted relationship between attorney and client. We heard a lot from you after the drop of the first episode that I recorded with Brian Milberg of the Sitex Group. A lot of great feedback was received from current clients and friends of Brian and I's who we didn't even know were clients. So we're glad you're listening and encourage you all to check out that podcast after enjoying today's episode. My guest today with us is Patricia Dunphy. Patricia is a well-known professional in the New York real estate world. She is the Senior Vice President of Rockrose Development as Head of Commercial Acquisitions and Leasing for their residential and mixed-use development in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and of course, their very well-known development of the Long Island City neighborhood of Queens. Patricia is the chair of the Long Island City Partnership, and I'm honored to have Patricia as my guest because we have been working together for all 10 years that I've been at Rosenberg and Estes. Patricia is a longtime client of our late partner, Warren Estes, of blessed memory, who we lost about 1 year ago. And Rockrose has been the kind of formidable real estate firm that I have cherished to come to represent at R&E. And I think I could speak for Patricia when I say that, you know, we both carry forward Warren's guidance in both of our practice every day in handling our legal matters. And I think we both miss him both greatly. So, well, I thank Patricia for joining me today. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much, Adam. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I like learning about my clients, and we didn't speak too much before this. You know, we speak almost every day, but I don't know all the origin story. And right before we got on, you told me that you were feeling confident about going into this because you've won some awards for the Moth, right?
Yeah, the Moth Story Hour. Yeah, I won one, I guess, last February, and then one again this January.
Where did you perform those? Where did you perform those?
Oh, so it in Soho. It's at the Housing Works, and you go, you put your name in a hat, and then if they pick your name, you go up, and they have a topic, and then you talk for 5 minutes on it. So it's fun. I did one on real estate. I didn't win that time though.
Well, you're so full of skill, and I'm not surprised to hear that you excelled in that also. But tell our audience, about how you began in real estate.
Well, I actually got into real estate. When I got out of college, I went out to San Francisco. I was going to go to Golden Gate University Law School. It was the only law school I was accepted at. I applied to a few. I didn't have very great law boards. And they were taking women in. So I went. So I was going out there to go to law school. And I just was tired. I never had any money. I was tired of being poor, struggling, working as a waitress, putting myself through school. And so I decided to put it off. And then I went ahead and got my real estate license. And I started to sell homes in Marin County, which is just north of San Francisco. And that's how I got started in real estate. Yeah. I studied philosophy in college. So with a philosophy degree, there's not a whole lot of things you can go into unless you're going to become a professor.
Yeah, unlimited, space to fill up your mind, but
right.
but not your work day. So how long did you live in San Francisco?
So I was out there for a total of about 7 years, working in Marin County and living either in San Francisco or in Marin and selling homes. And I did well. And actually, I think part of it I always say was because I was from New York. Because, just those little things, as a New Yorker. For instance, I'll just tell you one thing. The newspaper used to come out on Saturdays, the Sunday paper, and then you might find listings in there of something that could fit your client. Well, people waited till Sunday morning, but you could get the paper on Saturday afternoon. So it's just that little thing of being a little bit faster. And so I always attribute that to some of my success.
Yeah, I mean, no MLS back then or anything
Right.
like that, and what, even when I first started practicing, I'm old enough to know, you needed to know where's the payphone, right?
Right. Exactly. Right.
Call your client from court. So,
Yeah, there were no cell phones back then. Yep.
yeah. So I mean, do you remember any of your early deals? Some of the details of those
Well,
residents?
I can tell you, I remember my first deal. So the first deal was I sold a home for this. I had this listing for this older couple. They were going to retire and move up to Sonoma County. And all they wanted was a young couple to come and buy their home and take it over. So this agent in the office that I worked at Lash Realty, and she came with her offer, and she went on. So she presented it, and they asked her, who's going to use the home, and she went on to tell them how the man who was buying it was going to fix it up for his family and everything. Now I knew that was not true. I knew that he was a flipper, that he was going to buy it and fix it up. I went back to the office, spoke to Mr. Lash, his name was Dick Lash, and said, I'm going to quit. I can't do this job. He said, what do you mean you're quitting? This is your first job. I said, yeah, but she lied. He said, well, she didn't exactly lie. She stretched the truth, but she lied. And I was just like horrified. Now, I was pretty naive. But anyway, I actually didn't quit, but I figured a way to kill her deal. And I did. And I found a couple to buy their house. I have really found that you don't have to lie at all in this business. You don't have to stretch the truth. You can be really 100% honest and hold your head up with some integrity, and it can work. And that's what I did. And so I stuck it out.
That's great. So how did you find your way back east?
Well, actually, my family lived back here,
Right.
And I was just missing them. And that's why I decided to come back to New York. Yeah, my parents were here and everybody else. Yeah.
Got you. So did you have any interim real estate positions between there and Rockrose?
No, I've actually been at Rockrose for 38 years.
Wow.
So I came back here and I got a job with Rockrose, working as a marketing manager for their residential division. That's how I got started here. I've done a lot of other things over the years. Yeah.
So Patricia, for our listeners who aren't familiar with Rockrose, can you give us an overview of the company, how it stands today and where your focus is?
Okay. Well, we're primarily residential developers, although we do have a pretty big office portfolio in Washington, D.C., and a few buildings here in Manhattan. They started out, we did renovations of older buildings. One of the first buildings I worked on was the Archive building, which is in the West Village on Christopher Street. It's a whole city block. And we renovated that building into 479 apartments, and we have retail on the ground floor. And that's the kind of things we did in the beginning. And then eventually we started doing new construction, and so I worked on those projects. I used to open up all the rental buildings, do the marketing and the management of those. And then eventually we did some industrial buildings. We actually built a FedEx facility on the west side. And my job changed. I got into the retail, started to do the retail, so I got more into the commercial department. But I still do the acquisitions for residential development, where we're out looking for new places to buy. And so I've had a great career because I've gotten to do so many different things. It's been amazing.
Right, you've seen it. So what was the turning point for you where you were invited to take on this larger responsibility? Around how long ago was that?
Well, it kind of just really grew over the years, I remember after I was doing all the residential, and I'd been with them about 10 years. I remember one day I went and I got my resume done. And on the way back, Henry Algagnon said to me, I want to talk to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, does he know I just went to a resume store? Not a resume store, but an office to have my resume done. Why does he want to talk to me? And then he said to me, we're thinking, we didn't have any residential developments on the horizon. He said, why don't you take over the retail division? Because the man who was doing the retail was moving into, we were doing our first office building, Carnegie Hall Tower. And so that changed. And then the idea of doing the industrial kind of fell into my lap. And then eventually that it just sort of morphed that way. And then I started to do the residential acquisitions and the neighborhood building, like in Long Island City. And it just sort of morphed that way. So it's been really very fortunate for me. I've never felt a big need to leave because I've always been challenged.
For sure. Yes. So great that you're open to all these new opportunities.
Yeah.
You don't know where those risks are going to take you, all within the umbrella of your company.
Right.
That's so great. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what do you think gives Rockrose, the advantage in a very crowded New York real estate marketplace?
Well, I think one of the things is that we did go into new markets. We were one of the second developers down in Battery Park City. Like I said, we did those renovations all in the West Village. We were really the first developer in the meat market. We did a refrigeration warehouse at 95 Horatio Street, so that was a whole different neighborhood in those days. Then we went on to, so we went into Chelsea after that, and then we went over to Long Island City with the waterfront there with the Pepsi-Cola site. Those 7 buildings over there, we started out with those. I think we did about 4 or 5 of those, and then we went to Court Square in Long Island City. We started developing that whole neighborhood. So it's always been about going to different neighborhoods and taking a risk on changing those neighborhoods through our developments. Yeah, I think that's the advantage we've had.
So are you continued with the growth in Queens now, or do you see other markets?
No, now we have one more building going up now in Queens, but we're now over in Brooklyn. We have one going up on DeKalb, right across from Brooklyn Hospital, and that's 700 odd units, big project there. And it's just been announced, we just bought the St. Francis College site in Brooklyn Heights. And so I've been spending a lot of time walking over there. It's just a fantastic neighborhood. And that will be renovating one building, and the rest of it will have to be tearing down and building new. Yeah, it's a really exciting project.
Right. Is that going to be a market project or in partnership with the college?
No, it used to be a market project. Yeah, they've moved on. They relocated to another space about a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Right. So you've been in the industry so long. Are you feeling optimistic about the market now? Or do you have concerns?
Well, there's concerns. We have a concern because of the lack of support from Albany for a real estate program. That's a concern. I do think it'll come back in some form. We need housing. I think these 80/20 projects that we've built, as well as many other developers, are a really great way to build housing for all, for market rate and affordable housing. I think it's a great model, and I'm hoping that will continue. Yeah.
Patricia, we were talking about Rockrose, and I know that it's a family business, the Alganian family. Who are the key partners in your company's growth that have allowed you to grow the way you have?
Well, Henry Alganian and his son Justin Alganian. That's who I work with. And we have some people that have been here, like myself, a long time. Richard Brancato's also been here like 35 years, and we have people down the line from there. We have a great team.
Great. So I was hoping you can share with us. You shared with us the early days in San Francisco, and you told us some of the things you're working on. But going back the timeline of your career, is there a particular success story that sticks out, or a deal accomplishment that you're most proud of?
Well, I'll tell you, the one that you and I worked on recently during the pandemic, I think is a great success story of how we worked things out with Black Barn. Here we had a restaurant that had defaulted, during the pandemic, empty, nobody, not being open. And we had a owner who was being very difficult. And we had an owner on our side who was being very difficult because it was a lot of stress during that period. For us in our company, we weren't getting rent from all of our retail tenants, and also the residential tenants were all moving out. So it was a high stress time for both sides, for the restaurateur side and for our side. And we managed to keep it together, and back and forth over many, many months. But we kept that restaurant alive, and that restaurant is doing very, very well today.
That's so great to hear. Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I just never thought it would happen. I thought so many times we talked about, was showing it to other people. We thought about where he was going to, remember for a while we had it where he had a storage agreement with us. He was just storing his furniture.
Right. That's how we hit the pause button on the panic, was say, let us look at it, and you leave your things there, and then we'll see how it really turns out. Oh,
right.
That's good. It's tough for a litigator like me to really keep tabs on the business. It's so good to hear how well they're doing.
No, and it's really what's great about working with you, and as working with Warren is too. When we worked with Warren before, is that everybody loses a little bit. But, if you can make a deal and everybody just loses a little bit, it's a great deal. We have to all give in a little bit. And that's how it was with them. But we were dealing with some, big, hot egos at that time. That wasn't easy to deal with.
Right. Well, there's no doubt the real estate industry took it on the chin, but
right.
It's good that we're all, back to normal, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, our listeners of the podcast, there are clients of the firm, lawyers, people who rely on lawyers in their day-to-day operations of their business. So, what are the kinds of qualities that you seek in an attorney, that help you advance your business interests?
Well, it's I guess, okay, so part of it is thinking like a business person. I used to always say this about Warren. When I would come over to the office to meet with him to work on things, I honestly used to think I could see the gears in his brain going, because he would sit there, you could see his brain. If you had if you could get inside of it, you would see it turning around and around. And that's, for me, that's what a great attorney does. They're looking at it also from the business side of it. And then there's the legal side. And how can we make these two things work together? Because we can't operate without the attorneys. In all aspects of our business, whether it's the leases, whether it's the L&T, when we do have problems, whether it's access agreements, when you're building and you have access agreements with the other neighbors. There's just so many aspects, of law that comes into our business. We can't really work without great lawyers. And we're really blessed to be here in New York with great lawyers.
Well, that feels great coming from a client like you. So you've done the Moth, now you've done it a podcast. How do you feel about podcasts? Do you listen to them in your free time?
Podcasts, yeah, I do. I have a friend. He's an attorney. He's in the cannabis business. He's actually my stepson-in-law, and he has a podcast. It's all about updates on the cannabis business for other attorneys and everybody across the country. So I listen to his. He does a very good job. Yeah. Yeah.
So is this the first podcast that you've been a guest on?
Oh, yes, this is my first one. Yes.
Yeah. So who do you think that you would like this podcast to reach? Hopefully both of our interests could be advanced by doing this. Who's good to blast this out into Rockrose's sphere?
I'll have to give that a little bit of thought, but I would say that, do we want of our adversaries to know that a good lawyer is is what they need? I'm not sure. We have to think about that.
Well, just thinking about whether Rockrose is looking for financing partners, construction partners, JV partners, things along these lines.
Right. Yeah. Well, we don't have it. We don't really work with any partners at this point. We certainly think about it, but we haven't pulled the trigger on that. But we do have, obviously we have lenders, and yes, of course, yeah.
So, well, for anybody out there who is interested in Rockrose and what you do for them, can they reach out to me for an introduction, or do you want to give them?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Your contact information? Okay, well, so my contact information, just for the listeners, is 212-867-6000, extension 405, or you can reach me at Lindenbaum at rosenbergandestis.com. That information should be in the notes below as well, for you to catch up with me on LinkedIn or through our firm website. I'd be more than happy to connect you to Patricia if you see a potential synergy with her and Rockrose. We encourage you to ask questions and share your own similar stories that might have been sparked by this discussion. And we hope that that Rosenberg and Estes can represent you in your litigation, transaction, administrative law fields related to real estate to improve your business and achieve your objectives. So
Great.
please reach out. And Patricia, please say hello to everybody in the office for me.
All right. Thanks a lot, Adam. Stay well. Okay. Bye.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming on.
All right. Bye-bye.